Hey guys, Nicholai here, and we're going to be covering the infamous Jay Dyer. And I say that with sarcasm because I never found Jay particularly infamous or controversial. I always found him to be pretty standard fare when it comes to people whose livelihoods are based on communicating certain thoughts and ideas, theology, politics, geopolitics, writings of people, breaking down movies, all this kind of stuff. I mean, he's got a wide variety of things that he's involved in, and so it's always an interesting thing to see people always react so harshly to Jay. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not to say Jay's a perfect person and that he never loses his temper and he never makes mistakes or misreads the situation and maybe doesn't understand the person's being sarcastic when they actually were supporters of his. Blah 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 blah. Everyone knows that, but I would be a hypocrite to say that I don't do that too. And I don't have as many people commenting all the time 24/7 at me, some absolutely batshit insane, unhinged stuff. Um, Anyone who's known Jay for long enough knows that he's dealt with some of the most insane accusations one could possibly imagine. Some of the things that people have said about his wife, what they've said about him personally, would make you just your jaw drop. And so you can kind of understand why someone like Jay would have a very low tolerance for some of this kind of stuff. So let's continue. Um, so we're going to go through Jay's timeline a little bit and just show that, most of his stuff is just pointing out that he's been talking about this for many years. And Jay is absolutely hilarious because he's been right about a lot of this stuff, geopolitics of the Vatican, all of these things. His commentary on this, gaytheist, people lost their mind. That's not a Christian thing to do, is call someone a gaytheist. Oh, come on. Like, seriously, are we going to do this? I already covered in a previous video Jay Dyer and Brother Nathaniel going at it. Um, Completely unhinged stuff from Brother Nathaniel. Um, but I wanted to go over this, which people lost their minds over. He says here, Aquinas also reasoned that um, self-pleasure was worse than incest. Thomas Aquinas argued for legal accommodation or toleration of prostitution, not because it was good, but as a necessary evil to prevent greater social disorder, like widespread lust. He based this on St. Augustine's idea that suppressing it could entirely lead to more serious societal turmoil, comparing it to a sewage system that, while unpleasant, prevents wider chaos. Now we just know, like, just to state this right outright, we know that this is not true because history has proven that there doesn't need to be widespread legal accommodation of prostitution in order to stop people from lusting. There's all sorts of societies that don't have this problem um, at any meaningful scale to prevent this. And so the idea that lust um, is going to be prevented, like widespread lust is going to be prevented because of prostitution, just makes no sense. There's another example that I would give, which is we know that the same argument could be applied to pedophilia, where some people are saying, hey, we can make um, videos of um, AI people or lollies or whatever else, and that will prevent them from actually acting out. But what we know is actually people that are into that stuff, it never satisfies, and the sin festers and grows to the point where they snap and they actually do something even worse. Whereas if you just taught them how to have temperance and not to be self-indulgent and to turn away from sin and to stop these sorts of things, it would go away. But that's not what we see. What we see is them arguing for the opposite, which makes no sense. Based on all of the science that we know today about the brain and how it works for like pornography and things like that, it's completely incoherent to even argue this. And so, but people lost their mind about it. Um, it says rare Dyer L. It's less damaging to the soul to get a lap dance than J off. Jay makes a your mom joke, which, whatever. Some people lost their mind about it, but who cares? Um, Rare Dyer L. Why is it an L? Groiper, of course. Um, so it's because it's justifying sin. It's rationalizing that, hey, I can sin this level because I can't really help it if I do it on the other level. It's like it's a complete justification. You're justifying your sin. Christ rises the bar throughout the scriptures. He doesn't lower it. He doesn't say, well, it's okay if you sin on this little level as long as it's preventing a bigger evil. That's not what Christ says. Christ says, if you even look at a woman and lust after her, you've committed adultery in your heart. He doesn't say, oh, if you get a lap dance, it's actually better to get the lap dance than to have adultery with her. No, he says that he conflates them equally. They're equally caustic to the soul. Equally. There are different consequences to the soul. Like if you actually hate somebody, um, it's accounted towards as like killing them. But there's a big but there. Um, Actually going and committing the physical act of murder uh, has a added effect of consequence on you. But the damage to your soul is equal. They're equally condemnable. It doesn't mean all sins are equal. It doesn't mean all of that. But it just means that saying less damaging to your soul is just trying to find a loophole around a societal ill rather than address it forthright, which is why Aquinas is just wrong. He's just wrong on this. It's just a simple wrongness. Um, it's actually quite hilarious to see people react to it that way. We don't see much else here from anyone else, but yeah, it's kind of funny to see people react so poorly to this. I think there was also another part where he's talking about the Pope and all these things, but this is again just what Jay does, and so people they lose their mind because he might be crass about certain things, and he might be emphasize certain words more than others. But Jay has always been a completely uncontroversial, and the only people that really ever have a problem with him are people that have had run-ins with him where that they've turned negative for whatever reason, whether it's a miscommunication or not is irrelevant. People that got completely owned by him and they felt like they didn't get their say and they looked frankly embarrassing in front of them. They embarrassed themselves. They're like, oh, I'm going to debate Jay Dyer, and then they get embarrassed, and then these people seethe for years. For years, these people seethe. Um, and that's really what we see over and over and over and over again with these people. So all love to the world to Jay. And I believe I might be actually doing some stuff for Jay's parish pretty soon. So looking forward to that. I know he recently doxed himself in one of his recent live streams. He's like, my church is out there now, even though it's always been like no, like everyone. He's never hid who his parish or his parish priest was. Like it's just funny. Anyone who wanted to find out who his priest is can go and find out who his priest is. It's just hilarious to me that people have always been like, Jay doesn't attend church. No, I've been to his church. I've actually been to his church. Um, he's entirely sincere about his faith, and he's very serious about it. So God bless Jay. God bless his continued work, and I hope to react to more of his just craziness going forward in the future. I love seeing some of his back and forth and stuff like that. So expect to see more reaction videos of some of his content going forward on this channel. God bless.